Welcome to It's a Veggie BLT PETA, which normally stands for I totally suck at video games but love to play them anyway. Except today it's I totally suck at video games but love to play them and watch anime. Because another quarter of anime has ended, it is time for the Winter 2022 tier list. This is the fun, rambling kind of podcast slash video where I go over my thoughts on all the anime that I watched, the seasonal anime, I should say, that I watched in the season. And again, this was the Winter 2022 season. But how? How do I rank these, you ask? Well, with letters. S rank basically stands for I would pay full price for this when it comes out, with the exception of if it is put out by Aniplex USA, because screw their pricing, I ain't paying that much. Rank A is I really enjoy this. I would probably pick this up if it's on sale or like at least not full price, because it was a really fun watch and I would not mind having it in my anime library. Rank B is this was a fun watch. I enjoyed it. I'm probably not going to remember it. I don't really need to own it, but I could recommend it to people. It was fun. It just didn't strike me in that way where it made me want to own it, kind of thing. Rank C is this wasn't the worst, but it really wasn't quite worth the time watching it. Maybe it would appeal way more to some people, did not really appeal to me, but not like bad enough for me to say it sucked. Rank D is it's bad enough for me to say it sucked. Usually, I don't know, usually it doesn't get this far with rank D. Usually I'll have dropped it before that point. But there are some anime where I just bully through it because I've got, like the cost sunk fallacy or something like that. So it doesn't always happen, but sometimes there's an anime that's bad enough that I watch all the way through that I say, please don't watch it all the way through. And then D, oops, you're getting a preview of what anime we're going through. Don't look at the bottom part. But anyway, under D is another D for dropped. Now, dropped doesn't mean the anime's bad. Sometimes it does. But sometimes it just means that something came up where I was watching too many other shows and this one I just didn't watch it. So I dropped it, or I just didn't watch it all the way through, essentially. If it doesn't make me excited for each episode and I have too many other shows, or if it starts good and then just gets like, blah, I'll drop a show. It happens. I'll try to explain why I drop things too in this, just because some shows deserve an actual drop, like a D rank drop, and some shows don't. Alright, let's get things back to 100%. And let's start the show. First off is Demon Slayer Entertainment District Arc. Alright, everybody and their mother knows about Demon Slayer. I think it's like one of the most popular anime of all time. The Mugen Train movie sold like more than any other anime ever. I have thoughts on Demon Slayer. Don't get me wrong, I like it. I don't think it's worth the insane amount of hype it gets, but I like it, and it was consistent. The animation's good. The characters are annoying, but consistent. Consistently annoying. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. It didn't make me hate watching it. I enjoyed watching it. Some of the fights were pretty cool. Some of it was ridiculous. I don't know. Tanjiro is such a milquetoast hero, but like he is your typical shonen best boy, good boy hero who will sacrifice himself for everything. So I don't really mind that because that's my favorite kind of shonen hero. I don't know. I just never really connected with any of the characters in Demon Slayer. None of them really do it for me. But I can admit it was entertaining. There was some cool stuff. And so, like... And obviously, like I said, everybody and their mother loves this shit. It's a solid A. Like, I don't know. I might technically put it B tier for me, but I'll give it A because even though I had my misgivings, it was something I did kind of look forward to watching every week. Would I ever actually buy it? Maybe if it's on like super sale. But it's A tier just because it was good. Even I can admit that. Next up is the second half of Platinum, and this show sure was a show. To paraphrase what some other people were saying in like Anime News Network, the second half of this show was kind of like a big Reddit argument. Essentially, the Metropolitan arc from the first half, which was actually kind of exciting, ends in a blaze of glory, and then we're left with these final 6 god candidates, because there were 12 or 13, I forget, altogether, and then it's whoever's the last man standing, or whoever gets voted as god, gets to be god. Well, this half has a lot of conversations on what everybody believes in, and let me tell you, it was okay. They could have done a lot better. It wasn't exactly like titillating. Oh, this gets blurry as I zoom in, just because that's how I save pictures. It wasn't exactly super titillating. This kid was annoying and kind of pointless. Here's our main character. He just is a character. I don't know. He's super kind of lame in that I don't ever want to kill anyone. I want everyone to be happy, except then he'll go along with what other people want to. He never really stood out as a hero, which was unfortunate because he could have. This is love interest who was only there to be a love interest. She really had no point. This down here was kind of the most realistic character in that she didn't want to do shit except, you know, live a life of luxury and be loved by everybody. But that also didn't help to make her a god candidate or help her in the plot at all. Let's skip over the middle dude right now. And this dude is a slightly suicidal teenager, 13-year-old boy who wants to help other people commit suicide because he realizes everybody's lives are miserable. And then there's this guy who, thankfully, his voice actor, I think it's Kenjiro Tsuda, maybe? I don't know, the dude who sounds like he's got, like, speaking through gravel, but in a good way. He at least made it fun to listen to him. And he was definitely the God doesn't exist, let's all come up with a plan so that we can make it so God doesn't exist, and even though we're God candidates, God won't exist kind of thing. I am so sorry about resizing. I'm real bad about this. Who cares? It's fun. Whee! Dynamic. Anyway, they talk a lot in the second half. And then finally, like the last episode of the second half, some stuff actually happens besides talking. And, world ends. I spoil it for you because it's not necessarily really worth watching. World ends in not a very satisfying way, which is why... this is a tough one. I don't know whether to give this C tier or D tier. If it was based off the first half stuff, it would probably get C tier. But with the back half, I'm going to put it in D for now. We'll go over this afterwards. It's not really worth watching. It had some possibilities of being cool. It was kind of squandered them all. It's got interesting ideas, but the characters do not make it worth watching. So right now D tier, may review later. But we gotta move on to the next one, which is Futsal Boys. By the way, even though you can't see it in the English part, there are 5 exclamation points after Futsal Boys. I'll be honest, initially I was not going to watch this one. I was like, I don't need another sports anime. It does have pretty boys. And then I looked again, it has really pretty boys. So I gave it a watch. It's fun. It's a fun, typical sports anime that I'm pretty sure is part of like a multimedia project, I would assume. Because there were a lot of pretty boys and different teams with pretty boys where I can totally see like a gacha game or something of like, hey, make sure you get your favorite boy from this team and they're all very pretty. They tried to add some plot in and stuff too. But actually, you know what? The truth is, you know what actually got me to watch this show? In the first episode, this dude, the redhead, is watching some sports match, you know, the futsal. Futsal, which is essentially indoor soccer, I guess. But watching that match, and all of a sudden he's watching this dude, and he does like a Rising Super Blue Dragon Arc move or whatever. And I'm like, say what? Is this show gonna have superpower moves? Alright, I'm in. This is fun. Pretty boys and superpower sports moves. But yeah, the redhead turns out to be like the son of a super futsal player, except he's not that great at futsal, but he gets better because this dude is a prodigy at futsal and he wants to be able to keep up with him and be his real partner. And then the two in the middle there don't get much screen time and they deserved more, but like they're pretty cool, but yeah, they honestly get like no character development. Except like the green-haired one, his ultimate team is to have a team that is ultimate in teamwork or some shit like that, I don't know. And then the two on the side were the gayest couple I've ever seen in a non-gay sports anime. I say non-gay in quotations because it was super gay, but in that way that only Fujoshi style sports anime are. But yeah, the blonde one quit futsal because he got violent over the platinum haired one getting hurt one time, and he didn't want to bring everything down, so he swore off it. But then of course he came back, and yeah, I don't know. It's that kind of shit. It's great, but super dumb. All right, let's get back to 100%. Boom. But moral of the story is, it's not going to surprise you. It's your typical go through arc. Gotta get better, something happens and it's dramatic, then they get better, and teamwork wins everything. It had some cool parts. Some of the other teams were actually kind of neat, like interesting dynamics. Everything ends happy. Could have a second season because they don't actually get to face the main competitor that they're going after. It is what it is, and for that it gets B rank. Ah! Made it too big. Sorry. For that it gets B rank because I'll watch a second season. It was fun, but it wasn't exactly something I'm like dying to go buy. And I probably won't buy anything from the... We'll just leave it here. I'm not done talking. I probably wouldn't like buy anything if it is a mass media project, but it was fun enough to watch if you want a lighthearted, you know it's going to end well sports story. Alright, now I move on to, speaking of sports, Tribe 9. This one was kind of a surprise. Obviously, if you know anything about Danganronpa, you can tell this art is super Danganronpa style. This is by the same studio, I think, that did Akudama Drive, which was a surprise hit like last year, I think last winter, where I was like, holy shit, Akudama Drive is amazing, and I bought it, and I put it in S rank, and like my S rank promises, I bought it. I bought the limited edition for full price as it came out. So I had kind of high hopes for Tribe 9, but I wasn't expecting too much because this is another one of those mixed media projects where there is going to be a mobile game out. I think it got delayed, so it's not out yet, which is a shame. But there's a mobile game that's attached to it, so I was like, it's not going to be that good. But then the first episode happened, and it was like, if I thought Futsal Boys was superpower sports, no. No, Tribe 9 was insanity baseball sports, because the whole, I guess, function of it, I like zooming in, but I'm not going to zoom in too much on this. I don't have good luck zooming in. Anyway, essentially the city is split up into gang warfare, except gang warfare is XB, like it's some extra baseball, extra awesome baseball, I don't know, it's insanity baseball essentially. And there's people in like the mech suits who can play and like pitch at like 1,000 miles per hour. There's all sorts of crazy... There's a beam bat, like, the main... Well, who you think is the main dude up here has, like, this beam bat that is essentially a lightsaber bat. And then these guys are just, like, the goofy tribe that is one of the gangs, essentially. Dude with the star hat has, like, super eyes that can see extra clear and fast. Dude with the red hair is dumb, but super strong. The others are kind of extra... Well... I shouldn't say that. The others are the main team. It's funny because the extras to fill out the team roster are actually a set of quadruplets they don't even have on here. But they crack me up because it's just like I'm assuming because the mobile game they just fill out the rest of your roster, but they're literally just a set of quadruplets and they're pretty fun. They don't get too much screen time. A little bit of a spoiler alert, within the first 3 episodes, this dude fucking dies, who you think is the coolest captain dude, and you're like, what? What happened? People die in this game? Or in this show, I should say? Spoiler alert, yeah, people die in this show, although not too many people. And then this dude ends up kind of not taking his place, but kind of taking his place. They even have kind of the same hair. You can barely see in this, kind of the same hair. Anyway, the moral of the story is, let's just hold on. Moral of the story is, I should never move the screen. Boop. There we go. The moral of the story is, it was a lot of extreme action, some really good music. I enjoyed the music. Things did not always go how I thought they were going to go, which was very interesting, but the ending was satisfying. However, it wasn't quite as good as Akudama Drive, but I'll give it an A tier. I had a lot of fun. It was one of the ones I looked forward to watching the most every week, and it was just insane enough that I would probably buy that on sale just to have it, because it was a lot of fun. If you like crazy sports, baseball, and some violence, give it a go. And next up, is Miss Kuroitsu from the Monster Development Department. I wrote this down because it was such a long title and I didn't even spell it right. Oh no, I did. My L and my O in development are like connected, so it looks like a B. I'm like, what did I write? Anyway, this was kind of a surprise comedy fun hit. If you like Sentai, which is, or Tokusatsu essentially, basically, you know, like superhero, live action superhero shows, you're going to get a lot more out of this than if you don't, because the whole premise of the show is Miss Kuroitsu, who is the pink-haired girl in the front left, is part of the Monster Development Department in an evil organization ruled by, you know, the girl in the middle. Like, they're the evil team that's in any, like, Tokusatsu or Super Sentai show, where they put out the monsters of the day, and it's their job to develop those monsters of the day. And it kind of starts off more about that and ends up being more just kind of goofy humor comedy with some of the monsters they developed and some of the trouble that goes through with them. It was cute. I don't want to talk too much about this one, because you're either gonna like it or you're not, depending on your thoughts on Tokusatsu. But I did enjoy that they actually have clips from real Tokusatsu people in Japan, like the people who make their own costumes and walk around. They would actually have bits on that in there. They would feature them. But it's a comedy. It is a comedy with goofiness, a little bit of fan service, a little bit sometimes inappropriate, but on the whole, very lighthearted, fun. Would recommend if you know anything about Tokusatsu or Sentai. If you don't, not really going to be worth your time. But I will give it a C, B, C. I'll give it a B. I had fun. I wouldn't buy it though. Alright, next up we have... yes, Salaryman's Club. So this one literally just ended. This one was what was taking forever to make this video because it started late. It's also called Batteryman's, or I don't know, Rymans Club. That's what it's called. It's called Rymans Club in Japanese. It's badminton. It is a team of dudes who work at a company and they play on the company's badminton team, because I guess company-sponsored sports things are a thing. But that brings up the interesting point in that this is not a high school one. This is a, you know, post-schooling aged sports anime. So everybody's, I think, 18 or older. In fact, the blonde dude and the... Let's just make it bigger. The blonde dude here is actually, like, I think, maybe even in his 30s or almost in his 30s. I think he's like late 20s, but whatever. And then there's another character not here mentioned that's also, like, you know, actual adult age. But it was pretty cute and interesting. I was not aware that badminton was such a well-known sport in Japan, but considering there's another badminton show coming out this next season, maybe it is. It is the typical sports show, except the drama isn't about school life, it's about their actual, like, corporate life, because they have projects they still need to do, because they're salesmen and, like, QA people in a company, essentially. So they have to balance that along with their badminton practice. And then this main dude over here in the front has a complex because someone got injured in his past, so he doesn't ever want to play doubles. But the blonde dude over here is like, I'm going to play doubles with you, and so the only way he can be on the team is if he plays doubles. Plus he has a past with the other company that he got kicked out of, and thus joined this one. It's a thing. It's a whole thing that develops slowly over the course of the anime, but it was fun. It was very pretty and very well animated. The dudes look good. There were some other teams that also had some dudes that look good. I don't think this is a mixed media project. I think they just, had to create some more teams for them to play against. But even those teams had enough character in them. It reminded me, I think it's trying to be very free-esque because while the sport is a big part of it, the guys were pretty and also had just enough personality and differences that I could see, Fujoshi being all up on that. It didn't quite hit me that well. Did I enjoy watching it? Yes, but it didn't do anything to really wow or surprise me. It pretty much ran through exactly what I would think of for this kind of show. But I did enjoy it, so this gets a little bit smaller. Too small. This gets an A tier because I'd buy it eventually, but not full price. It wasn't worth full price, but it was a well done show with some cool characters I enjoyed. Next up is Requiem of the Rose King, and I will be honest, I dropped this one after 8 episodes. It should have been something I liked, although it may have been cursed because it is based very loosely off of Shakespeare, I would assuming Richard III. It is loosely based off that, only with a ton of pretty boys, and in Richard III, instead of being deformed, is actually intersex, and so it hides themselves away so that nobody knows they have boobs. Even though they identify as a dude, they have to hide that. Some guys fall in love with Richard because they think he's a chick. Some guys fall in love with Richard through pure platonic friendship. I don't know the rest because I dropped it after 8 episodes because this show has some pacing problems. It feels like, honest, this is the best way I can describe how this show is. This show feels like the recap of Previously On, only it's the whole show. Everything just kind of clips along at a huge, really super fast pace. All of a sudden this battle's happening, and then it's nope, that's the end, now we're over here. Oh no, now this happened. Oh, this is happening here. This is how Richard feels about this. I'm what? Slow down, show. Slow down. But anyway, it's not like it's the worst. In the animation, sometimes it's not animated, and sometimes it's animated well. The character designs are cool. Maybe I'll check out the manga at some point, but I dropped it. I dropped it because I was I just don't wanna anymore. And that's how that went. Yep. After that, we got, Tokyo 24th Ward. This, coming off of Wonder Egg Priority, was an original anime by Cloverworks, I want to say. And everyone was kind of watching it because everyone and their mother had some problems with Wonder Egg Priority. I didn't. I thought it was interesting. It wasn't great, but it was interesting. Tokyo 24th Ward was also potentially interesting. Had some cool character designs. There's the green-haired dude who's the logic guy. The red-haired dude who's the I'm a free art dude. The blue-haired dude who's just I want to be a hero and make everyone happy. And then that girl up there, she did. She was their dead friend, love interest / sister of the green-haired dude. The premise is that there's a minority report style system that reports, essentially when bad things are going to happen so that SARG can stop it. SARG is the police force. But then it starts calling these 3 boys, RGB, red, green, blue, in her voice. The girl up there is Asumin. It calls them as her and says, hey, this is going to happen, this bad thing's going to happen. You can either do the logical thing and save people, the not logical thing and save one person or whatever, or you have to pick. You have to do those two things. And obviously, she wants them to choose the in-between so that they could save everybody. And they do that the first round, and then they waste 9 episodes not doing that. Like, it's a 12-episode show, and they waste a lot of it arguing and being like, no, we should do things my way. No, let's not talk to each other because we're dumb. Oh, now we all hate each other. Oh, whatever are we going to do? Everyone's sad. And they really should have done more, less of that and more of them working together to actually solve things. Because the last couple episodes when they did work together to realize that, hey, we don't have to do things, it's not black or white, we can actually make a different choice. It was pretty solid. It had good animation, had good action. The character designs, I like them, but they're weird, like kind of squarish. You can't really tell here, but everyone's got very flat faces. The other characters in the show were okay. No one was really developed that well, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like a train wreck. So it's gonna get a solid B from me in that I don't regret watching it. I did enjoy it pretty well, but I can't really like say, hey, you should buy this. It was that great kind of thing. Next up is Orient. I'll give a heads up that technically I dropped this, but I did finish up to the season 1 arc. I guess, like an arc finishing. It's by the same guy who did Magi, so I was thinking it was going to be pretty good. And you know, it's not bad. This main redheaded dude wants to be God, I can't even remember the names. Essentially an Oni killer. Like, the world got taken over. Some cities like worship ogres or Oni. And then there's these Boushie, that's what they are. The Boushie who travel in these like floating castles and have their own villages where they're out there to kill all the Oni. And he wants to be a Boushie, and the blonde dude is the Boushie's son, and they escape their village after actually killing an Oni and go out into the world to try and become Boushie. And it's very, very typical shonen. Like, you're not going to be surprised. Everything goes pretty much according to the shonen tropes. They meet a girl who's the third of their trio. She's a green-haired girl who's more experienced than them, but of course ends up being less useful than them. But there's a whole arc. There's a cool, actually the villain has like goat eyes, or I guess frog eyes technically. He's actually the coolest character in this whole damn show. And I liked him, but not enough to keep watching it. I think it's not bad if you just want something. I hate to say it. It's not that it's boring, but it's boring because you know what's going to happen if you've ever watched shonen anime. It has an interesting world building, but not enough to keep me interested. Maybe your mileage may differ. So I guess technically I have to put this in the dropped. But I watched through episode 11, which was the end of an arc with the cool bad guy that I mentioned. If I didn't drop it, I would probably give it a C tier. So I'll put it there for now because there's nothing else in C tier. But it technically dropped. Hey. Next is Sasaki and Miyano. This was cute. This is boys love. I'll just say that right out there. So if you're not into boys love, this will not change your mind. But it was definitely very cute, very lighthearted. Let's see. Miyano, on the right in the blue over here, is a fudanshi, which means he likes to read boys love manga, isn't necessarily gay. Turns out he's pretty much gay, but doesn't think he is. And then Sasaki on the left here just likes Miyano, turns out. He ends up reading one of Miyano's manga because he borrows it, and he's like, yeah, no, this shit was good. It's a good story. I think it needed to be boys love to be a good story, and that sets Miyano's heart aflutter. He goes, oh, somebody understands. So they become bestie friendsies and see each other all the time and walk home, and it turns out Sasaki's like, I really, really freaking like you. And Miyano's like, oh, what? and all the little sparkly things at the bottom happen. And then there's a little bit of an arc where Miyano's like, I don't know if I like guys. I don't even know if I like Sasaki like that. But it's light, it's fluffy, it's a little introspective. You get to know the characters. There's some side characters that are cute and actually really supportive that I like. Like Miyano's best friend is a dude with glasses who has a girlfriend. I guess is like perpetually stuck in the hospital. Who's also who's a Fujoshi, I guess. So like he'll talk to Miyano about boys love stuff and like help me buy one for my girlfriend, and it's just super nice. And nobody ever like makes fun of them or says they're like bad for liking dudes or not liking dudes. I don't know. It's just a nice, happy, fluffy boys love, slow paced, but with some rewards anime. And I liked it a lot more than I thought. I'd heard some maybe not great things because I guess the author doesn't call it boys love. They call it boys life. So I was like, oh, are they just trying to say like, no, it's not boys love. No, it's totes boys love. But also about their life as boys who like boys love. But it gets an A from me because it gave me some good feels. And I enjoyed it very much, but I would not pay full price for it. But I would own it eventually. Next up is Love of Kill. I was intrigued by this one. It is about a guy named Ryangha, I think, over on the right, who's like super awesome, crazy assassin killer dude. And then this chick over here, his name is Chateau. She's a bounty hunter, I guess, who works with the two dudes above her. One of which, that dude on the like in the very middle, he doesn't have a mouth. He just doesn't have a mouth in the anime. I don't know if he does in the manga or whatever this is based off of, but he just doesn't have a mouth, and it's weird, and they never explain it, but okay. But there's gang stuff going on, different like mafia slash yakuza slash triad. I'm not sure. Anyway, assassinations, attempts, and revenge plots. Except it wasn't good enough for me to keep watching. I thought I was gonna maybe power through it, but between the animation and just the slow pacing of the plot reveals, I ended up stopping after episode 6. It wasn't bad. I kind of feel bad, and if it was a super slow season, I would have kept watching it, but there was enough this season that I was looking forward to, where this one just kind of fell by the wayside, unfortunately. I'd give it a go. The animation is not great, so if you're gonna watch it, just be aware of that. But it's got some solid, interesting things and some mysteries I kind of wish I could resolve, but not enough to watch the whole thing. So yeah, like I said, I dropped it after episode 6, technically. It wasn't that bad, though. It's not a drop because it was bad, it's a drop just because there was better stuff I wanted to do with my time this season. Some of those better things would be Case Files of the Vanitas Season 2. It's pretty. I talked about it in the last season, I think. I think Season 1 was last season. I talked about it already. It's vampires and crazy curses, and a lot of this second season was an arc with the Beast of Gévaudan, or Gévaudan, I think. Yeah, Gévaudan, I don't know, it's French. But there's a whole legend of that, and they kind of play off of that. It was just as good as the first season. Very pretty animation, A+ on that. The character designs I still like. The character development was still a little iffy. It's so fun. This show cracks me up because, like, the characters at the top, obviously, is I forget their names because I'm terrible. Noe, that's it. Noe is on the left, and Vanitas is on the right at the top there. They are the epitome of, like, this should be boys love with them, except every time the show makes them get too close, they cut back and they're like, oh wait, no, there's chicks. They like chicks. It's cool because like there's Jean, the pink hair girl right below Vanitas, who they have a whole thing together, and Vanitas even has, like, near the end of the series, like I don't like her, no way, I can't like anybody, what's happening moment, when, like, after he and Noe have just been too gay together. So that cracked me up, and not in a necessarily a good way, because even Noe has, like, a girl who is after him, and he, like, I think he likes her more like a sister, but you know how these things develop in anime. When anime creators are too afraid to go the gay route, they will go for whatever girl will work. But besides that bit, it has a lot of cool fight scenes, a lot of cool character development. It's just pretty overall. Got some nice art, nice designs. I would recommend this whole series, and it doesn't even end terribly, which I was afraid of, because the whole first season opens with, like, I killed my friend. There are some plot developments that never quite fully go through, which I guess there must be more manga or something. I don't know, like, the end of season 1 has a big old thing happening with Noe, and they never go into that in season 2, or I missed it, I don't know. But it's still recommended. Not enough for me to, like, buy full price, but this is another A tier where I liked it enough. I would probably buy it if it was on sale. Next up is the longest title of them all, I think. It might be tied with Miss Kuroitsu, but this is The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. And this was a very pleasant surprise. I was not expecting to enjoy this as much as I did. So our titular prince, I think Wayne, yeah, well, I zoomed in, we're just going to deal with it, he does not want to actually rule the kingdom. His plan is to make the kingdom just rich enough to sell it off, and then he can just live his life in retirement however he wants to. Except he's such a genius that his plans end up going too well to plan, and, like, instead of, you know, I'll just kind of spoil a bit of the beginning. Instead of just taking over a gold mine that he thinks is failing because of research he's done in another country, like, they go to battle and he was gonna just, like, kind of take over the mine, but then lose to the other team or the other country so that he could just say he put out a stand for it, and then, you know, I don't remember exactly the plan, but essentially he ends up actually winning the fight he meant to lose through his planning. And the gold mine turns out to not actually be empty, so now he has a gold mine from another country that he defeated, and it's like, well, shit, that wasn't the plan, but that was even better than the plan. And that's kind of how the whole show goes. Let's see if I can get this back to 100%. There we go. Where he tries to make plans. He's a what did I say? I told someone this show is like Code Geass. Like, he's like Lelouch but good, like comical. It's like comic Code Geass, because he's always 1 or 2 steps ahead of people, or can somehow get 1 or 2 steps ahead of them even if his plans don't work exactly. But this is definitely not a Code Geass crazy political. Like, it is political, but comically political instead of drama political. But I do love me some genius characters who are always, like, 3 steps ahead. So I had a lot of fun, and it had some good comedy moments too. I think there's more. Oh, I don't think there's more. There's definitely more to this. It might be light novels, I'm gonna assume, and I'm actually almost tempted to start seeing if I can find the light novels, because I want to know what happens to these characters in this world and how he outmaneuvers people again with his trusty soulmate sidekick, who they're not really romantic, but they are, like, she is his heart or whatever. There's definitely more going on there, and their whole past. And like I said, he's got a little sister who is actually pretty cute and sort of useful in a dumb way. There's a whole lot there. I would recommend. I very much enjoyed this show. Like I said, a lot more than I thought I would. So it's gonna get the A tier. It's not quite S tier. Just for a few, it wasn't like, it didn't amaze me, but it very much entertained me. Oh man. Now we're getting into one that, well, I'm not going to say anything. Let me talk it out to myself. This is Sabikui Bisco. This was my most anticipated show of the season, just from, like, the weird one little trailer I saw, because it looked insane. And yeah, it definitely started insane. There's dudes who can shoot arrows that make mushrooms bloom, giant crabs, as you see on the bottom, that people ride. There's in fact also giant hippos that have guns attached to them. Like, it is a weird, weird world. And it gave me Dorohedoro vibes, and that is a good thing. Main hero up here, Bisco Akaboshi. Like Bisco, they call him Man-Eater Bisco. I don't know. He's partners with Old Man who rides the crab down there. Except Old Man who rides the crab down there has what's called the rust. And in fact, lots of people have the rust, which is a disease that essentially turns people into, like, they start turning into rust. Like, their skin starts rusting, and then they can die off of that because, you know, it's their organs are rusting. And people think that mushroom keepers brought on the rust, and Akaboshi up here is a mushroom keeper. So the first episode, he invades this city to try and heal his buddy. Runs into the doctor up here, Milo, I think it's Milo, who has like a panda eye. They call him Dr. Panda sometimes. But he is working on trying to cure the rust, and it's just like the super nicest, gentlest dude you've ever known. You know, the kind who treats people for free just because he wants people to be better. Kidnaps him essentially, and they become partners because of how things work. This chick in the lower left is actually Milo's sister, who also has the rust, as you can kind of see if you zoom in on her heaving bosoms. And so that's why he's trying real hard to cure the rust. And then this chick down here, I forget her name, it starts with a T. She's kind of like I call her the jellyfish because she's got like a lot of braids. Her hair looks like a jellyfish. But she's pretty cool in that she's a wandering sales traveling person that they run into randomly, and sometimes helps, sometimes does not help. But it's an adventure show where they're trying to find the rust eater mushroom to cure the rust. And our good buddy Kenji Tsuda is a voice actor in this again as the governor, who is not pictured here, but he's the bad guy. He wants to not let them cure the rust. You know, I won't spoil much because there was actually kind of like a twist in this one that I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But essentially it's a journey anime where they go out and run into some crazy things and stories and use their arrows to make mushrooms explode everywhere and get out of different situations and have fun. And man, does it progress pretty quick between like we're friendly rival characters together, ha ha ha, to like, I will sacrifice myself for you. No, I will sacrifice myself for you first. And I was loving every second of that. And then something happened towards the end which made me want to drop the series altogether, but I'm glad I didn't, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, this is a tough call for me on A or S tier, just because I wasn't sure about how it was going to end. But I think with how it ended, I am going to give it a tentative S tier. Like, I want to buy it. I liked Sabikui Bisco. It was insane. And it had some good characters. Like, I want to know more about the world and the characters. So, and it was my favorite show of the season. It was always the one I wanted to watch the most. So it gets an S tier. A low S tier, if that is helpful. But yeah, it gets the S tier. And then last, but not least, because it will never end, is Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2. The not final part. What can I say, though? It's still really good. Like, this is another one where this and Sabikui Bisco were probably like, shit, I want to watch this. I need to know what happens. I would watch this usually on the day that it came out, maybe like just the day after, so that I could be up on what was happening and make sure to not get spoiled a little bit. But it's good. It's Attack on Titan. We're already in the 4th season. You're going to know whether or not you like Attack on Titan enough. The disappointing part is that it's not the final season. It's the final season part 2, and part 3 is not coming out until like next year, like late next year, or I don't know, maybe early next year. But either way, we have to wait like a year for like maybe the conclusion, or maybe it'll be the final season part 3 and there's going to be a part 4. We don't know. And that's the only thing really holding me back from saying like, yeah, watch this right away, because you're just going to be stuck on a cliffhanger like the rest of us are who have not read the manga yet. However, it was good. Each episode was kind of on on the edge of your seat. Yeah, that's the phrasing. I wanted to know what was going to happen. It was good pacing, good character development, good all around. Attack on Titan, like, season 3 made me want to just drop the whole thing, but seasons 4 and 5 have really, really stepped it up. Wait, 4 and 5, sorry. Season 3.5 and 4.1 and point 2 have really stepped it up. And I'm liking Attack on Titan again. I can still super high recommend it. However, I don't own any of Attack on Titan because it hasn't gone on sale, I don't think. It gets a solid A tier. It's a very high A. It's really good. It's Attack on Titan, and it's at its best. I just really want it to actually end. So that's what I watched in winter of 2022. Let's review some of the picks. We'll start at the bottom. Well, the dropped ones I dropped. Platinum End, I feel kind of bad giving it D tier, but by the end of it, I was just kind of watching just to see. I had heard how it ended. I heard basically that the world ended, and I wanted to see how it played out, so I did reluctantly just kind of force my way through the rest of it. So it's not the worst anime I've ever seen, honestly, and you might get some enjoyment out of it, but I guess I'm going to keep it in D tier. Orient, that's the one where technically I dropped it, but of the arc that I watched up through episode 11, it gets a solid C tier. It doesn't do anything different or crazy and isn't super worth watching, but it wasn't bad either. It's neutral. I think Futsal stays at 3, or I think Futsal Boys stays at B, Kuroitsu stays at B, Tokyo 24th Ward. This is one where it's a low B, high C. I don't know, actually. Like, ooh. You know what? I take it back. I think I'm gonna change this to a C tier because it did not live up to what it should have been, and while it wasn't bad, I don't know if I could really recommend it either. So yeah, I'll be mean today. I'm gonna give it a C tier. A tiers. We got Demon Slayer. Don't kill me that it's not S tier. It's just not for me, but I recognize it's good. Tribe 9 was just a lot of crazy, and I enjoyed it a lot. Salaryman's Club was actually... Actually, I'm going to drop that to B tier. It was good, but it didn't do anything to be surprising. It was just very well executed, to be fair. Alright, sorry I'm moving some of these around. The more I think about it, you know how that happens sometimes. However, the rest I think I'm going to leave as they are. Sasaki Miyano was A tier, would buy. Vanitas was A tier, did enjoy. The Genius Prince was way more of a surprise. I enjoyed that more than Salaryman's Club, so that's going to tell you something. And then just to make things even, boop, Attack on Titan is what it is. So there you go. Let's zoom this shit in. This is my final ranking of the anime I watched in the winter 2022 season. Take it as you will. Maybe use this to find your own suggestions of things you want to watch. All of these shows, well, all of the seasons are done. Some of the shows aren't done. Attack on Titan. But they're done. So if you wanted to give them a watch, you can just watch the whole seasons that I judged here, which is always nice. So hopefully this helps you pick out something you want to see or avoid something that will waste your time. Winter 2022 season had actually some pretty solid A and B tier ones. It was some good stuff. Not as many S tiers as I would hope, and Sabikui Bisco is still a low S tier, but it's also really fun to say, so, you know, S tier. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble about anime, and I'll get back to you with the spring 2022 season once that ends. It's a veggie BLT pita! I totally suck at video games, but love to play them anyway.